What's going on, guys? Welcome to the Scent Bubble, and today we are talking about an ombre leather clone. And I feel like I have a unique perspective on this that not a lot of people are talking about in terms of giving people just a good, confident sense of what they're getting their hands on when they go into not only leather scents in general, but specifically people who fell in love with a sample or a tester of ombre leather and they're chasing that DNA. Because I'm going to tell you, in Inspired By's clones and dupes, it is nearly impossible to find a fragrance that captures the beauty and genius of what ombre leather offers. But I'm going to tell you everything you need to know about it, and I'm going to give you the best resource in what I feel is the closest clone to date and the important things you need to think about before you pull the trigger on this phenomenal fragrance. So before we get into it, you know what we do. All right, welcome guys today to the Scent Bubble. I appreciate all you guys who have been rocking with me. We only have 15 subscribers, and I love that. Seems like we've been getting a subscriber a day, but the shorts have been going crazy. We've gotten like 3,000 viewership on the shorts, even though we only have 15 subscribers. I just want to let you know right now, I appreciate every single individual who comes across my page because I always want to offer value. I want to give you my story about my fragrance journey as somebody who's just as of the last couple of years really been diving into notes and fragrances and stepping my collection up, going from about 3 fragrances to about 60 pretty much overnight. And so I want to provide you guys value for people who want to know what to buy and to educate folks on the various things that I've personally purchased so that if you're considering any of the following fragrances, you can make the best decision possible and not blind buy. I really feel like you should never be in a position in today's day and age to blind buy. There's always a way to acquire a sample. There's infinite knowledge on YouTube and forums, and you should feel pretty confident about every fragrance you purchase, even if you haven't smelled it. That's just my opinion. But again, today we're talking about an ombre leather clone, and I'm going to be able to give you some very detailed information because I still have my ombre leather sample, and so I'll be able to let you know for sure, without question, if the fragrance we're talking about today can hold a candle to this fragrance. This is from the house of Afnan, and this is Rare Carbon. And I've been hearing about this fragrance for a while. It's 100 ml. It is, I believe, like in the $25 range on pretty much every discounter. Don't buy it if it's more than that. But this is what people say is the closest rendition of ombre leather. Now, I'm going to tell you two things. First, I'm going to tell you about the beauty of ombre leather. The beauty in ombre leather is that it satisfies the needs of the leather lover, but it commercializes that profile to be light, airy, still have sillage and scent bubble and projection without just smelling like a leather wallet. It really has beauty behind the note breakdown. It has florals. It's got slight woods. It's got a touch of tobacco. It's got cedar. What I smell in the background of ombre leather is like crisp, airy, but slightly strong leather with a backbone of this somewhat raspberry-ish, crisp, sweet, florally goodness. It's very unique, and it takes it completely out of the animalic side of and the musky side of all leather fragrances, which in my opinion, for the most part, leather dominant fragrances just smell like slightly cheap leather. And it's the same for the clones, which is my second point. Every clone I've smelt personally of Toscano leather and of ombre leather has done in the same way that red tobacco's dupe formulations all smell like kind of a cheap synthetic cinnamon gum, but more on the urine side, like very like zingy. even though people would tell you that a lot of the red tobacco fragrances, real or dupe, wait till the dry down, wait till the dry down. I'm still not a fan of that DNA because I just feel like when you compare that to something like Ombre Leather, it is miles apart in terms of the sophistication and the genius that went into the note breakdown. Now, that's my opinion. But back to my point is just that anyone who's tried to make a Toscano leather clone or an Ombre Leather clone, they always capture the leather note pretty solid. If we're just talking about the leather note, dupe companies get 95% there on the leather accord. But what they almost never get right is the backbone of either fruity, floral, woodiness that beautifies the leather and makes it more commercial. So oftentimes it just comes off as strong leather that might have some fruitiness or some sweetness or some florals right up front, but then dries down on the skin and gets very animalic and gets very kind of cheap, leathery wallet kind of smell. And sometimes can even get funky. And that's why I'm not a fan of like 99% of all leather dupes, because they just aren't complex. For whatever reason, they just think sprinkling some raspberry or sprinkling in some florals is going to tone this down. And it never does. Leather is such a hard note to tame. And I think most people would love the leather accord if it was tamed. Only a very narrow batch of people prefer the cowboy leather, right in your face, unadulterated, just leather. Most people want the beauty and complexity that's in ombre leather. So let's see if Afnan did it. We're going to spray it on the test strip here. I know it's going to be strong. I know this is going to be a projection beast. I don't know about beast mode, but maybe 8 or 9 out of 10 in terms of beast mode. I don't want to spray this on my arm because I'm certain with this fragrance it will be the same on the test strip as on my arm, maybe a touch warmer. Okay, so this is what you need to know right off bat. When you first smell this, you will think ombre leather about 9 out of 10. 9 out of 10 on closeness. And where it's really going to matter is on the dry down. So for your guys' sake, I'm going to go ahead and hit the arm. And we're going to let that dry down as I talk. But when I smell this compared to the original right here in my hand, even though ombre leather is a bit richer, just a bit, this is 8 to 9 out of 10 close. Like in terms of percent, I would say right off the top end, it's 95% for me. You got the leather kind of playing the middle to background, but a front note of kind of a raspberry, florally, rosy sweetness. And it's beautiful. It beautifies this, the commercializing of it, and most importantly, the quality of the ingredients is there. Nothing about this opening smells cheap. So for that, I give them a 10 out of 10. That part of it is phenomenal. Again, the key is how they've tamed the leather and the quality of the ingredients. So the quality of the ingredients is there, and they've tamed down the leather to be airy, fresh, florally sweet. But it is a leather-dominant fragrance, but it's got more of a 60-40 balance, with 40 being the kind of fruity, florally cedar, just like ombre leather. Now, on skin, it does remain. It does warm up and get fairly heavy on the amber accord and slightly less floral, but the floral and the rose is still there. Let's look at a note breakdown really quickly. So here on the original ombre leather, we've got top of violet and cedar with a middle note of jasmine and orris. And then in the base, we have leather, woody notes, and tobacco. I know this is the parfum breakdown, but it might be slightly different with the EDT. But nonetheless, on Rare Carbon, which is what we're talking about today, we have top note of leather, violet leaf, nutmeg, and cinnamon. I do catch a hint of that nutmeg and cinnamon, but mostly violet leaf leather up top. Definitely gets somewhat of an oudiness, but it's not funky at all. It's fresh. It's mostly floral. So I would say the middle is controlled by the violet rose and slight oud. Cedar I feel is carried throughout, but I'm really getting that base now on the arm as opposed to the test strip. It gets very ambery on skin, but nonetheless has still captured the leather and is more 40% sweet, ambery rose violet with 60% leather, which I think is the key. The dupes and the fakes always get it to where it becomes, it might open 60/40, but then when it sits on skin, it's like 80% leather and funkify, and then like 20% whatever else in the background, which is bled out by the dominance of leather. The 60/40 is what makes ombre leather special, where leather is still running the show, but the complexity behind it is very much sitting on the horse, so to speak, and doing its thing. And that's what tames it. That's what makes it sophisticated. That's what makes it more beautiful and commercial, I feel, where it has a little more versatility, not just, when you're wearing your your boots and your Levi jeans and you're on a horse, or you're, you know, uh, doing construction, or busting open a door in a cowboy ballroom type vibes. It actually commercializes it to where in any cold weather, any occasion cold weather, it's going to be a phenomenal fragrance. And I think sometimes even if it's warm outside, if you have a cooler indoor climate and you're indoors, this could also rock very beautifully in the right occasion. But yeah, definitely what you need to know is that on skin it gets less floral leather violet and goes more um, amber. There's a strong amber accord on skin, but nonetheless, it still has that 60/40 blend where it's not just a leather scent, but it's beautified by that rose and that violet, and that amber really pushes forward. The vetiver is just brightening it up on the base as well, but this is a phenomenal fragrance. In terms of closeness to ombre leather, I would say on the on the opening, it's like 9 out of 10 or even 10 out of 10. On the dry down, I feel like it's more, if I'm being super honest with you as a consumer, it's 8 out of 10. In terms of like a percentage of closeness, my best score would be 9 out of 10. I would say it's 90% close to ombre leather, but I don't think that 80 or 90% closeness to ombre leather means it's not a great clone. It is close enough to where when you smell it, you immediately feel the beauty of what ombre leather captured, but it takes a slight turn in its own unique way that gives you everything you wanted from ombre leather, but goes slightly in the amber, slightly in the warm amber direction, but still is like still very close to ombre leather, but it does become something slightly different. So for that, if I was being like graded on a test, I would say it's more 8 out of 10 in terms of closeness, but as its own unique twist, it's 10 out of 10. This is probably the only leather dupe that I will ever purchase in this DNA style. I've tried a lot of leather dupes for this as well as Toscano leather, and I think they're all trash and you should not purchase them. For that reason is why I feel people should buy ombre leather if they really like it. In the leather family, that is the most bare bones entry level. That is the most commercial form of expensive leather fragrance that I feel everybody must have. And so even if you have this clone, get yourself a sample of ombre leather to appreciate what it's doing, because if you ever have the money, it is money well spent to get the Tom Ford. But if you don't have the money, you will certainly feel luxurious and high quality with Rare Carbon. Projection, longevity, it's close to beast mode. Great projection, incredible sillage. The longevity is almost beast mode, like 9 out of 10 in terms of closeness to beast mode. The price is around the $30 price point on all discounters. Age wise, I think it's going to be 25 and up. And I almost want to say 30 and up, because leather accords, man. You got to be a certain type of person to rock leather. Even if you're 30, 40, 50 years old, you still can't rock leather if you've got a certain vibe about you. But entry fee, I'm going to call it 25 for any ambitious guys with style that are in colder climates. This could rock out very well for you. Um, Definitely sample ombre leather if you've never even got into leather fragrances before, to just kind of wrap your nose around it. But this passes the test for me. Extremely close to ombre leather, and the whatever percentage it's not of ombre leather, it is super unique, one of one in its own slight twist of a category, almost similar to the Ganymede clone that we went over with Celestial. It's extremely close, and where it varies is just as beautiful as the original. So cop Rare Carbon if you have any questions about it, or if you own it and second my sentiment. This is an absolute steal for the quality. It makes no compensations, or it makes no exceptions. It is a high quality, very close fragrance with its own unique charm, which I believe is what every clone, dupe, and inspired by house should do, is they should be inspired to take the fragrance in the DNA profile of what they're going after, but then add some twists so that people have some really good variety. Not just the affordable aspect of clones and dupes and things like that. Hope you guys really appreciated this channel. If I left anything out on this episode, ask me in the comments. I'd love to interact with you. And thank you for being in the scent bubble. Until next time, be blessed. Have a great day.